Hi, this is Ken and Michelle Bass.
And you're listening to the Resilient Parenting Podcast.
Well, here we are once again, Ken and Michelle. And last time, I think when we did an introduction to our episode, I did not do any dad jokes.
No, you gave everyone a break. And we really appreciate it.
I'm not going to do any dad jokes this time either.
What?
No, but I do have some bad advice from real dads I want to pass on.
Okay.
Several. These are.
Did you write some of these?
Nope. Ha.
Okay. We are ready.
Okay, these are actual tidbits of real bad advice from real dads.
Okay.
One person said, "My dad, who has a bachelor's degree in finance, told me that you can use credit cards as free money as long as you pay the minimum payments."
Oh my goodness. That's like the worst. The worst.
Okay.
On so many levels.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no.
Okay. Here's another one. Bad advice from a real dad. Coca-Cola is used to disinfect toilets, so you can use it to clean wounds.
You can use it to clean wounds?
Wounds.
Oh.
No, not wombs. Wounds.
Thank you for clarifying. I don't think anyone thought you said wombs.
Okay.
Gosh.
And more bad advice from real dads. Okay.
Who are these people?
I don't know. That's why they keep them anonymous. Bad advice from real dad.
Okay.
My dad told me one time that I shouldn't work out because people who work out too much don't have the flexibility to lift their arms over their heads.
Wait, what?
And that's my excuse.
That doesn't.
Thank you, Dad.
That doesn't even make sense. It's supposed to make you stronger. Well, your muscles are so big that they're so heavy that you can't lift.
Yep, that's it. You can't tie your
Oh.
own shoes either. Yeah.
Well, speaking of a lift, that was a lift listening to all that really bad information there. But on a good note,
Yeah.
we're going to have lots of great information coming up in just a minute.
We're joined today by Officer David Gomez, one of America's most trusted and most relatable voices on youth digital safety. With over 15 years as a school resource officer and nearly 2 decades in law enforcement, Gomez has seen firsthand what kids are facing online long before parents or schools ever hear about it. From hidden Snapchat vaults to AI boyfriends, Roblox, grooming rings to the latest extortion scams, he's been in the trenches with students every single day. And we're just going to touch on just a little bit of this morning.
Absolutely. And I'd also like to say that I found him on Facebook, and you have almost 440 followers, 440,000 followers, I should say. That's a lot.
It's a lot, and I never imagined I would have that many followers.
Keep
Well-
finding yourself looking over your shoulder, or who are these people?
Well, clearly you have a lot of great information to share, and that's why you have so many. And we are so happy to have you here with us today. So thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me, and I'm excited to talk with you guys this morning.
So, that was a quick introduction of everything you do. Can you tell us a little bit about what all you do and why you're so passionate about this?
So I became a school resource officer about 15 years ago for Meridian Police Department, which is next to Boise. After 3 years of being on patrol, they gave me the school resource officer job. My job was to build relationships and keep kids safe. As I started doing that, I realized that a lot of the problems that were happening at the school were happening social media wise, even 15 years ago. And so in order to kind of educate myself on social media, I made a fake account of a kid at my own school. Now, I only friended 10 kids at my school. After that, all the kids friended me. So I had more than 500 kids who friended me within a 3-month period at my own school. Once I had that, I knew acronyms, I knew drugs, I knew who was going to fight the next day. I became one of the best people at finding runaway kids because I had this resource that nobody else had. Well, about a year later, I decided to test my kids, see if they were paying attention to my teachings. And I made a second account of a 13-year-old girl. And what happened after I made that account was so many predators started contacting me. And my department said, well, let's see how far they're actually going to take it. So I started arresting predators left and right who were coming to Meridian, Idaho, thinking they were going to have sex with my fake 13-year-old girl. Well, in arresting many predators, some, 60-year-olds, some I was arresting, 15-year-olds. I learned so much. And I started just with a small Facebook page. Hey, let me tell you what's happening on social media. And because I kind of gave the information pretty raw, I always tell people one of my superpowers is because I carry a taser, I don't have to be politically correct. So I give it kind of raw. Parents appreciated that, kids appreciated that. And it just started growing. And as my Facebook page grew, not only was I giving information, but I was getting information as well. So I get people from around the world. Have you seen this? Or this happened to my kid? What do you know? And if I don't know, I find out. And if I find out, I share it as much as possible. So I get up to the minute all kinds of information that I like to share with everybody, as well as currently I am still a school resource officer. However, this is my last year as a school resource officer. I'm actually going to go full-time teaching at schools around the country because it's much needed.
And you have a website, and I'll share that in the show notes. And then again, you're talking about your Facebook page, which is Officer Gomez, and it has lots of great information. And you are really good about updating it and continuing to share that information that you have, which is just vital. It's constantly changing. I know in my work, we would do a lot of trainings for families around internet safety, and it felt almost like it was a constant having to keep up, having to know the latest things, because it felt like the kids and everyone was always one step ahead. So I am curious about that. Is one area that I still hold a lot of worry as a parent, and I know a lot of parents do. We talked about a lot of different topics, and one of them that stood out was around cell phone use. Some of the questions I hear is, well, when is too soon, or how much is too much, and then how do you keep them safe?
So let's take that in a couple of questions there.
Okay.
When is too soon for a cell phone? I always recommend we wait until at least 13 for a smartphone. Now, a lot of parents are going to say, well, I need to know where my kid is. I need to communicate with them. They're at soccer practice. I completely get that. So they have the safety watches, right? The Gab Wireless, the Bounce watch, the Gizmo watch from Verizon. I have 6 grandkids, and half of them have been raised on the watches. They're pretty safe. I've never had a problem with them. I've never had a parent come up with a problem with them either. Those are good till the kids are about 11. Then I always recommend we switch to one of the safety phones, which is Gab Wireless, Pinwheel, TrueMe, Bark. They actually sell you a phone with a service. It's a little more expensive than a normal phone, but then you have a whole company backing you up and looking out on behalf of you and your child. So sometimes you'll get a phone call in the middle of the night from one of these services. Hey, it looks like your kid is talking about suicide, or it looked like your kid sent some pictures that might be inappropriate. You might want to go check them out, and we've quarantined those for you to look at. Plus, they give you lots of education as well. For a full-on smartphone, 18 is best, but at 16, depending on how good your communication is with your kids, at 16, you can start giving a regular smartphone, but know that giving your kid a regular smartphone is a life-changing event. They will never be the same, right? You can't go backwards. It's like giving them a drug. Once you give it, you can't ungive it. You can't undo it. You can start reining it in. You can start putting monitoring. You can have all this, but once you give it, there's no ungiving it. So always, I tell people, hold off as much as possible. It gives your kids an opportunity to use their imagination, to learn all kinds of other skills, to do all kinds of things. And I always tell parents, addiction is giving up everything for one thing. And I see sixth grade kids who come in with their ukuleles, they come in with their drawings, with their photography, with their music, with whatever. As soon as they get a phone, all that stuff goes away. That's an addiction. And there's no going backwards. So the longer you wait on that, the better.
Agree.
Okay, now we obviously know where we can get the smartphones, like where we get the smartphones. The other phones and the watches you were
The
talking about,
safety phones.
safety phones, where do you find those? I had never heard of any of those before, actually.
So if you go Verizon, T-Mobile, any of those places, they all offer a watch for kids. And what's nice about those is they only have 10 contacts or 20 contacts available. So you as a parent set up every contact they can possibly contact, which is usually parents, grandparents, or siblings. So Verizon, T-Mobile, you can look online for a kids watch, and those are all available there. And they GPS, you can send a couple messages back and forth. So you're not going to get the addictive nature of a regular phone. The safety phones, on my Facebook page, I have a couple places where I plug those guys and I say, hey, here's the safety phones. And there's probably 10 to 15 companies that offer the safety phones that basically they come pretty clean slate, and you as a parent get to decide exactly which apps your kids can have on that phone.
Yeah. And this is, I would say, one of the biggest struggles is when to give them the phone. So I love that you have, steps to getting old enough, responsible enough, mature enough to manage, because it is, even for adults, it's very addicting. And then I think about just how much access so many people have to them after that. So I have a wondering, what about once they have the phone, how do you keep them safe?
Okay, so once they have a phone, if you go with the safety phones, you're going to have some help. But once you have the phone, the best thing to keep it safe is going to be communication with your kids. In our house, we take in some high-risk teens, we take in foster kids. First night at our house, we have what we call tribal council. We all sit around in a family meeting, basically. Let's talk about it. And then we also always set in our house a 2-hour screen time limit, even for the adults, right? Even my wife and I, we do a 2-hour screen time limit. The kids do screen time limit. This is what we're going to do. And we explain why. If they want more time than that, they can go talk to the old lady next door, do some community service projects. Those will earn them more time if they want on their phone. But 2 hours is a good time. Communication is going to be your best defense against unsafe things. Monitoring is going to be your next defense. But understand that even monitoring communication, the communication is going to be bigger, because they're going to have access to phones at school that you don't know about. They're going to be able to buy burner phones that you don't know about. Even if your kid is in elementary, they're going to get on the school bus, and some sixth grader is going to want to show them a shock video or pornography. So you have to have lots of conversations that a lot of parents aren't ready to have, but you need to have in this day and age. We need to update our safety talks with kids and make them much earlier than most parents think they need to have them.
Absolutely. So something that comes up, it has happened with us as well. I can't not use my phone because I use it for school. I have to use it to look up information. I need to use, or I use my phone because it's the only way I can wake up in the morning. What else do we hear?
You're talking about our kid. Okay.
It's that, not just kid, they're all kids.
Yeah.
But I've heard that from other parents. So what do you say to some of that?
So yes, one of my big safety rules is not allowing any kind of Wi-Fi devices in bedrooms. And the biggest thing is the only alarm I can wake up to is my iPhone alarm, right? And it's like, I got a bucket of cold water that says differently. But we've got to battle those excuses. And kids have had excuses for everything since the dawn of time, right? There's nothing, and this is parenting 101. You're going to have to come up with, hey, let's communicate. We're all right for you using it for this, that, and the other, but let's talk about why we don't want you to be on your cell phone all the time, why we don't want you to talk to strangers. And a lot of that is, we don't want you to be a consumer of other people's lives. We want you to make your own life. We want you to have your own experiences. We want you to have your own skills. One of the things I tell the kids at school is, 2s don't marry 10s and 10s don't marry 2s. And I tell them they're all 5s. I said, how are you going to get to a 2? Just be a consumer of everybody else's life and don't live your own. Drugs, alcohol, tobacco, show up to class late, be disrespectful. That'll get you to a 2 very quickly. How do you get from a 5 to a 10? Attend school, be on time, be respectful, learn any skill, draw, singing, dancing, sports, traveling, dirt bike, millions of things you can learn. And so then one of the other questions I always ask kids is, hey, your potential partner later, would you want them to use more or less social media than you? And every one of them says less, because they're not going to get anything done if they do anything more.
Mm-hmm. I have a question because it, as I'm hearing you talk, it brought me back to something you said earlier, which had to do with once you give them the phone, you can never go back and they are changed forever. Can you explain a little bit to the families or parents out there who haven't yet given the phone to their child what you've seen?
Okay, so as we're talking about it, once you give the phone, you can't ungive the phone. And yes, most parents will give a phone because they don't want their kids missing out, right? That is the biggest excuse I hear. And parents get peer pressured into giving that phone. I don't want my sixth grader to be the only kid without a phone. That is peer pressure on parents. But they will miss out, but they'll miss out on bullying. They're going to miss out on pornography. They're going to miss out on mindless hours and hours and hours of consuming other people's lives. But while you're not giving a phone, your kid is going to be bored. When they're bored, they're going to imaginate. They're going to use their imagination. They're going to gain skills. They're going to pick up a guitar. They're going to play piano. They're going to draw. They're going to come up with things to do. And that for a child's development is very, very valuable for them to develop those skills of, hey, what are you going to do when you're bored? What kind of skills are you going to get? What kind of things are you going to have to offer up your future domestic partners, right? Hey, this is where you build them. And if all you got is fat thumbs from doing social media, that's no good. But once you give it, they're going to have the fear of missing out. They're going to have the drama bug. They're going to have all kinds of things. And they're going to yearn for that phone more than anything else. Whereas while you don't give it, they are going to feel left out. They're going to be a little bit upset. They're going to say, hey, I'm the only kid. I wish I had normal parents, all that stuff. But later on in life, I've talked to lots of kids who said, I'm so thankful that my parents didn't give me a phone because now I can do all these things. And I see all the drama I missed out on. I see all these things that happened. A little story about my local area is we have a family with no running water, no electricity, and they homeschool with no computers. And they get called in a lot for welfare checks. Hey, I think they're being neglected. I don't think they have enough stuff. And I love going there because every time I go there, they've got bruises, they've got dirt under their fingernails, but they have stories for every bruise and scrape they have. They know how to go out and go camping all night long. They know how to fish. They know how to hunt. And I'm actually jealous for all the other kids who there's some kids who have never had dirt under their fingernails in their whole life. That to me, that would be more neglect than having no running water, no electricity.
You're starting to sound like my childhood, honestly. Like spending all day outside riding my dirt bike and playing and with the hose and just all of that. I wanted to circle back too about something that I've seen a lot too is, between the filters and other things that are out there and looking at self and like comparing to other people and how that has such a big impact on self-esteem and identity at this time when teenagers specifically are like, who am I? What do I want to be? And like you said, like instead of living their life, they're living through other people's lives, which is not living. But then the impact it has on their own self identity and worth. I'm just curious if you have seen that as well.
Yeah, so here's a story I tell often. I had a young lady come into my office at the school, and she said, basically her picker was broke, that all the boys she were picking were uncommitted and that they only lasted 3 or 4 weeks and they were done. And she was quite upset by it. And so I looked at her and I knew I had a very good relationship with her. And I said, hey, look, tell me what you're worth. And she goes, well, I don't know what you mean. Well, hey, what are you worth? What is your value? What things do you have that set you apart from everybody else? And she goes, well, I don't know. Right. And so a lot of times they want to say politics. Right. And I'm like, no, that's politics. I don't care about your politics. What are you worth? What is your value? And so then I told her, hey, look, how about this? It was like Tuesday. I said, on Friday, you have to get married. I want you to make a list of all the things you want in the young man you want to marry, right? All the characteristics, all the habits, all the things. And she came back with a 3-page list of things that she wanted in somebody to marry. So I said, all right, now put a check mark by all the things that you're good at on that list. And she felt like she'd been deceived. But what I thought, well, let me ask a lot of other kids, hey, what are you worth or what are your values? And I probably, out of 100 kids that I ask, maybe 5 kids have any kind of idea what that means. And most of those kids are worth whatever viral videos, whatever likes, whatever shares, however many number of friends they have on social media. Those are not values. Those are not worth. And if you don't know that, there's no way anybody else can know that in you.
Yeah.
When you're talking about cell phones with kids in school, um, I know schools have certain rules. Certain schools have rules about when the cell phones can be used by the students. Uh, what are your views on all that?
So I tell schools now you can either have cell phones or you can have education. You can't have both. The kids are addicted to their cell phone. And I'll ask adults, hey, adult, when your phone dings, how long can you wait before you get the message? Most adults cannot. They've been trained to ding, let me look, ding. Kids are the same. If they have it in their pocket, it's going to vibrate. They're going to have to go to the bathroom. If they have it in their backpack, they're going to have to go to the bathroom. So you see bathroom breaks exponentially increase while attention span decreases, but you cannot have both. And a lot of schools will let kids have them in between classes. It's no good. At lunch, it's no good. So then we basically fuel the drama for the next class. The only thing I've seen that work, and I've seen lots of schools now, is bell to bell, no phones. So basically, those phones got to be out of sight in backpacks, bell to bell, or we're just not getting an education. And it's not fair to the kids. It's not fair to the teachers. Anything for people to have the cell phones available to them at school to look at whenever they want.
And what about the argument I'm sure is tossed up every now and then about any kind of emergency situation at the school where the kid needs to use the phone?
Yes. So the number one argument for a kid to take their phone to school is a school shooter. What about a school shooter? And so I tell parents, I'm like, okay, let's talk about this for real. In your family meeting tonight, you should tell your kid in an emergency, your number one job is to stay alive above all else. And you're going to stay alive by looking and listening to what's happening, where the problem is, and not be there. If your kid's first instinct is to call a parent in an emergency, that is a detriment to their life. And as being a police officer on many, many crashes, kids and adults can usually hold it together during the emergency. As soon as they talk to a loved one on the phone, they melt, right? So in reality, in a real emergency, whether it's a school shooter, whether it's a fire, whether it's something going on, your kid last thing should be their phone. Their first instinct should be stay alive. Keep as many people alive as you can, but you're going to have your wits about you. You're going to have to look and listen. And a phone is not going to help that at all.
No, that makes perfect sense.
It does.
Okay, so we got a lot of really great information. I have heard loud and clear communication, communication, communication with your kids. And it starts with a family meeting, coming together and really having that hard conversation. For those that are like, how do I even start that conversation? What would you say? Like, maybe you don't have to have the whole conversation, but like, what would be a couple tips for parents who are maybe anticipating, like, how do I start this conversation around cell phone use and expectations?
Okay, so at Gomez Tribal Council, we'll take complete stranger kids. Hey, we're having tribal council. We sit around in a circle, nice comfy couch, no phones. And hey, tell us about your day. Tell us about your week. What did you like? What didn't you like? What might you be anxious about? What could you have done better? What are you looking forward to next week? What are you looking forward to next month? What kind of things are we, going to do? And we as adults share our own things, right? Hey, look, I'm looking forward to this trip. I'm kind of anxious because I have this big job thing due. I have a boss that's kind of a jerk. We talk about real things and how we're going to overcome them. But then, hey, let's pick a topic. And the topics at our house, jobs 101. How are we going to get a job? How are you going to do manners to hold that job? How are you going to, let's talk about sex or pregnancy. Let's talk about cell phone use. Let's talk about predators. Let's talk about, why you're so addicted to the phone. Why am I so addicted to my phone? But again, we talk as a family and we're vulnerable to phone addiction just like anybody else. So we share those things with the kids and why we want them to do better. And we know they're not going to be perfect, but having the conversations is going to help just build the family. I call it family building 101, but that is an awesome way to do that. Super easy, right? Just, hey, let's start with what did you like this week? What didn't you like this week?
I love it. I love it. Being authentic, being vulnerable, modeling that, hey, I got things I'm working on. It's not just a you problem, because nothing I think is more irritating than having someone say, you need to get off your phone while you're on your phone.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so family building 101. I love that. All right. Any last thoughts for those that are listening that are, at different stages in their parenting, that,
So, so let's expand on family building. Family building 101, take back the dinner table, right? Hey, no cell phones at the dinner table. That's just an easy thing. You can have another communication there at the dinner table. Pick an activity. We always recommend a sports activity. Pick the Idaho Steelheads or a football team. And on nights when they play, let's root for them as a family. Once you get the family thing going for rooting for them with no cell phones, invite the next family over. Hey, come over. We're going to watch the Steelers play the Dallas Cowboys. It's a no cell phone night. Bring a dish. We're going to play some games afterwards, but we're going to family build. And your activities can go, not just a night, it can go in the weekend. Let's go camping. Let's go, find flowers or birds or dirt biking or whatever it is. But pick an activity where the whole family can get involved and you guys can specialize in. I mean, one of my favorites is music. If you go on a camping with somebody who brings a guitar or ukulele, it will probably want to be one of the funnest camping events of anything that you've ever been on, just because singing and playing instruments is good for the mind, body, and soul in ways that haven't even been recorded yet.
You haven't heard me play guitar, have you?
I was going to say sing, but just kidding. I'm just kidding. He actually can sing. And it brought up something because I know someone's going to be listening and go, but Officer Gomez, I use my phone to take pictures. So if I'm out in nature, I'm going to want to use my phone to take pictures. So should we all get a camera?
So you can get a camera. You can use phones. Like we took our exchange students to Hawaii and they had phones, but we said, hey, look, today we're all going to take pictures of flowers and we're going to post them on our social media and so you get some votes, see who gets the best picture of a flower, see who gets the best picture of a bird, right? And especially since you can go out where there's no Wi-Fi and now you truly are using just your camera.
I love that. You made it also a fun activity, family connection, with just a touch of
Changing the phone from a
competition.
phone to a camera.
No,
basically.
I was going to say competition,
Oh,
healthy competition.
okay.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of things, but it's basically just family building and communication. And families are awesome. Kids are awesome. You should enjoy them. And if they're spending 5 to 10 hours a day on social media, somebody else is raising your kids. And I'd rather people raise their own kids because that is the fun part of it.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, we've already talked because I know there's going to be people listening going, oh, I want to know about this. I want to know about that. We have talked about having you on more to share. And I love that idea. You have so much information and thank you for everything that you do. It's amazing because I see information as power so definitely go to Facebook, follow, and then go to his website as well. And we'll add all of the links to make it a little easier for you. But thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me. And I would definitely come on again. Volumes and volumes of stuff that I've collected over the years from talking to kids, right? And I tell my parents, I get my information from your kids.
Wow. Okay. Can't wait.
Definitely.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me.
This podcast is brought to you by the Idaho Children's Trust Fund.